Yay!
All right. I am here today with Erica Lasan from the class of 2005. Welcome, Erica.
Why, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Tell me a bit about your time at Friends School. What grade did you come in, and what was your experience like?
Ooh, okay. So my experience with Friends started in the sixth grade. I came in the sixth grade from early elementary, but it was really awesome. It was definitely different um, from what I had experienced previously or prior to coming into the private school system. But my time at the school was awesome. So much about my friend school experience still influences my life today, like 15, is it 15? Yeah, 15 years later. And so I stayed in from sixth grade to 12th. I graduated from Friends. So it was awesome.
You have any favorite memories or formative figures from your time here?
Um, there's so many favorite memories. I just think that the overall experience is just a favorite memory, just because it allowed me to really grow. Being at Friends allowed me to grow and really just have an understanding of a version of myself that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. Um, okay, so if I have to pinpoint a memory, I think it would probably have to start in sixth grade with my Spanish teacher. Was it Senora Holbrook? Or maybe that was ninth grade. I think it was ninth grade. I don't know. I can't remember. It was one of those grades,
Yeah.
but it was my Spanish class. Walking into my Spanish class in the upper school, I forget which room it was, but it was like up in the attic or something. I can't remember whose class it was, but Senora Holbrook was my ninth grade Spanish teacher. And I really remember when I walked into Spanish class, just being like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. I get to learn a new language. Like, how cool is that? And I didn't realize it then, but that really put me on course for kind of what a really big part of my life is now. And just learning about new cultures and world travel and being able to communicate with other people in a way that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. Like, that whole world was not really something that I'd had access to in the same way. I mean, I grew up in a Nigerian home, so there was always this idea of another language being spoken, but I feel like that engagement and interaction with the Spanish language really just opened something up in me. And I carried it through with me till upper school. Like, through upper school, I picked up French as a second language, and that really just, it inspired me to even study international business in college. Like, it's just snowballed into so many other things.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So now you're an alignment and empowerment strategist. Tell me what that work looks like when you're advising a client.
Oh, okay. I'm so excited. So basically in my role as an alignment and empowerment strategist, what I do is I help people that are in transitional phases navigate and ride the wave to what's next, and finding joy through purpose. And then I help them map out the steps to get there. So the work can look like a number of things, because in addition to being an alignment strategist, I'm also a multi-passionate creative. I have a jewelry line that actually started at the time while I was at Friends. That's a whole other story. It's very interesting now that I think about it as an adult. I have a jewelry line. I've done video production work, on air hosting, event hosting, red carpets, and things like that. But it really all started with a journey of what brings me joy, what makes me happy. Because after graduating from college, and I graduated during the recession of 2009. So I didn't know what else to do. So I just did all the things that made me happy. So basically in my role now, including my, oh my gosh, sorry. Technology. So basically in my role now as an alignment strategist, I help others tap into what brings them joy and finding joy through purpose. And we figure out those things, and then I help them map out the steps to getting to wherever it is that they actually want to go, whether it's starting a business and having a bunch of ideas, but not being sure of how to streamline it to turn it into a marketable business. Whether it's somebody who has a business but isn't sure of how to maybe engage with digital media in this age, I help them do that. Or it could be someone who's in high school and going into college, but they're unsure of what it is that they want to major in. You know, figuring out what it is that they're really good at, what their natural gifts are, the things that innately bring them joy, and that will allow them to tap into that joy so that they can inspire others through their journey and purpose.
That's really great stuff. It reminds me actually of a lot that we've been looking at as a school as we think about you know, what our ultimate purpose is. I think purpose is actually helping people find their purpose is a huge part of what education should be centered on, and it works in some of those same ways where you look at what you have to contribute to the world, what gives you joy, what your skills are, and what the world will reward, and all of that leads you towards a sense of purpose, both, you know, in your pre-professional life and then from your end on the professional side. So how did you find yourself into this? You know, this is certainly one of those careers that didn't exist when you graduated from high school, say. What particular life experiences led you down this road?
So it's really interesting because when we think about purpose, every single aspect of our lives puts us on track for whatever our destiny is, or what our purpose is. A lot of times people just don't think about it that way, because if you aren't where you picture yourself by a certain age or at a certain time, you think that all hope is lost. So in answering your question, I'd actually like to say that every part of my journey has led me here, you know, and again, considering the journey. But the key thing I think that really made something click is the fact that I realized I'd been doing all of these things over this span of maybe a decade or so that were in the creative arts or digital media, because I've done so many things across so many industries, journalism, design, fashion and styling, personal shopping. And at one point, I realized I really wanted to be on camera. I wanted to be an on-camera host. So I started doing street interviews in New York City. And in doing that, I was talking to strangers about a range of topics. But I always found that the thing I came back to was, what's your dream? Like, what is it that you want to do with your life? You know, or where is it that you want to go? And people would start to talk to me about those things. And then I'd be like, well, have you tried doing this? Or maybe you could consider doing this. Or, you know, that part of this is really interesting and maybe you could use it. So it would get to a point where I was having like 40-minute conversations with complete strangers. They were telling me their life story, you know, on the train, on the street. I used to ride my bike around Manhattan for 8 years. I would commute by bicycle. Like, just, it would take me to the most random places, meeting the most random people, but that's what it always came back to for me. Yeah. People. I really love people. I want everyone to live joy-filled and purpose-filled lives. So in doing all of this work leading up to last year, it really clicked like, oh, okay, Erica, you really enjoy doing all of this creative stuff, but you enjoy doing these creative things to inspire people to get on this journey to joy and purpose. So yeah, it all in a way makes for the experience of where I am now. But again, no part of anyone's journey is lost. You know, things that we consider to maybe have been our, I don't know, Achilles heels or like weaknesses, like all of those things, when you think about them as you make them your way through them, ultimately become strengths that can help you inspire people in getting through theirs as well.
That's wonderful. So I'd be interested to know how your line of work has changed in the era of COVID. Of course, we're all now transitioning and having to deal with unexpected situations. And so has the last couple of months been a very different experience in doing what you do?
For me, no, because I, in addition to having this business that I'm doing, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I've always been someone who's balanced business and babies,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the past 5 years anyway, because our oldest daughter is now 4. But as far as the way we go about work, not really. As far as the interaction and engagement with people, I would say in some ways, yes. And considering the messaging and also helping people recognize the value of purpose in this age. You know what I mean? So many people, I think, consider the idea of purpose or working with their gifts to be a nice idea, something where if I have time, I'll do this, or if I had the resources, maybe I would actually consider putting together that business that I've always had in my mind. But now I think what COVID-19 is helping people realize is tomorrow is not guaranteed. There is no guarantee that you'll make it to next year to start that business, or that you'll make it to retirement to enjoy the rest of your life. Now is the time to do those things that you've always had in your mind and on your heart, because you just don't know what's going to happen. But then there's this unemployment situation. The unemployment rate is on the rise with no real insight as to when it's going to end. Mm-hmm. So I think that people are starting to grasp this idea of finding purpose as something more than a nice idea, and really starting to recognize, okay, I have this thing that I'd like to do. Now's the time to do it. But not only that, tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and the idea of putting your life in someone else's hands in order to provide for yourself or bring you joy, or waiting for the nice or the perfect time to do something, doesn't really exist, because who knows what could happen. So I think that it's just really made people a lot more mindful of mindfulness, mm-hmm. and the ways that it's necessary in finding purpose, but also in helping them find peace as well as joy. Because one thing that I always say, and people are probably so annoyed with me talking about it, but when you find joy and when you find purpose, then you ultimately attain peace, because you know that every single day, whatever it is that you're doing is on track and intentional with whatever that purpose and mm-hmm. that thing is. No day is a waste. No experience is ever a loss, because it's all putting you on track for ultimately what you believe to be your calling is.
That's beautiful. You mentioned mindfulness, which makes me think of course, Quakerism and the experience of meeting for worship. How has that played into your work?
Well, mindfulness is all involved in this entire process of finding joy through purpose. For me, it comes in the form of faith, right? So I always say that I'm faith-fueled and purpose-propelled. And that's kind of my mission, faith-fueled, purpose-propelled. But in considering mindfulness, just taking the ability to get still enough to get grounded in what it is that your purpose and your calling actually is, not just hopping from one thing to the next, because you're trying to find the things that work, but really getting still enough and quiet enough with yourself so that you're able to hear that voice within, or tap into those parts of your soul that really resonate with where it is that you're supposed to be going versus where you think you have to go based on everything around you. So even in considering meeting for worship, in some ways I practice meeting, but in the form of prayer. So I take mornings for devotions, and so I read my Bible. I have a devotional. Each year I get a new one that speaks to me in a different way. So I take time to be still and with myself, read the word, see how it applies to whatever it is that I may be feeling in the moment, or whatever thoughts I may have for the day about, like, well, which way should I go? How should I be guided in this moment? And then I pray on those things. And so in considering that, it's almost like, I always say that people need to petition for themselves, or advocate for themselves. Once you get that grounded clarity because of that stillness, then you can begin to put the things that you want into the world through manifestation and, asking. And it's almost like asking, you shall receive, no matter what that looks like for each person as an individual. So it definitely plays a part. And I'm also really trying to get into meditation,
Okay.
like getting really, really into it. But prayer for me is that mindfulness and stillness.
Great. Now I have to ask before we wrap up, tell me about the virtual parties you've been hosting over the last few months.
Yes. Okay. So the virtual fiestas kind of started off as, I would want to say a fluke, because it was really something where at the beginning of quarantine, I think it was probably the second week, I send out a weekly newsletter. And I was just putting it out there to my audience and my people, I miss seeing everybody. I miss seeing what's going on with you guys. So if you'd like to catch up, meet me here on Zoom at this time. But because I'm also someone who likes to throw a little spontaneity into everything that I do and fun and music, I was like, it's going to be a party. So I created an itinerary and with music and topics for conversation, because conversation for me is it's like a cornerstone to a lot of the things that I do, because you don't know how to engage with people if you don't know where they're coming from. Yeah. So you got to be willing to listen, and people also have to be willing to share. So in these virtual fiestas, we have conversation, we dance. Dancing is key. And you got to dance like you mean it too, not lollygag dancing. You got to really be in it. There's karaoke, just a bunch of random fun surprises, but tons of conversation, and joy, more than anything, joy. Everything serves an intention and a purpose. So at the end of the virtual fiestas, the idea is to come, expect the unexpected, but also leave with a joy-filled perspective to carry you through the rest of the week.
Wow. Sounds like we could all use that right about now.
Okay. Yes. Every day.
Yeah. Well, tell us, where can folks look to find out more about both the virtual fiestas and the work that you do? You have a website?
Yes, I do. My website is ericalasan.com, and I'm on Facebook at Kirika by Erica Lasan. Instagram at Erica Lasan. Everything is just Erica Lasan.
All right.
But yeah, through there they can find all of the other things. But that's where everyone can find information.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving us some time today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And please say hello to your sister for me.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Have a good day.